I didn't realize what time it was, so it's, let's go ahead and get going. I didn't realize 7 after 10 already. Yeah, Susan is on the line. You can bring Susan up. Hi, Susan. Jessica Davis should either be here or on the line. Has she showed up yet? No. Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and go forward then. Could I get the computer screen? All right. So it's great to be with everyone again. I know I missed last month, and I didn't really get any feedback on what happened. The only thing Susan told me was it lasted an hour. And I don't know if that was good or bad, whether when I'm here and it lasts an hour and a half, if that's a good thing, or she was rejoicing because it only lasted an hour. So if you want to comment on that, Susan, have at it.
I think the meetings are excellent either way, Paul.
That's diplomacy for you.
Oh, you're so diplomatic. Really.
There you go.
Strict meeting efficiency.
All right. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at some of the work that we've done in the past and that Jason's done. He's got cover pages for each strategy. And just as a visual, guys, you can't see this, I don't think, Susan. On a flip chart, I show a strategy, right? And then according to what we said, what we wanted to do, we want to at least come up with 3 core objectives. And on the pages that Jason's created, and I'll show you one in a minute. He shows 3 objectives. Now, those are his objectives, and you guys, if you want to change an objective, that's fine. But we want to have several objectives in the plan, key objectives, and then you see from an objective, so I show a chart there with objective 3, and I have goals coming off of it that are measurable and tangible. And those are what we have to start building these building blocks with, okay? And I've created a slide here for you, Susan, that pretty much says the same thing, all right? And so what I'm going to do now is escape from that and come back to, all right. Here is an objectives slide that Jason created for housing. And you can see he puts our tagline at the top, Lancaster County as a highly desirable place to live, work, and play, right? And in that, there are 3 key objectives under this strategy. Remember, the strategy is a housing strategy, and now we have objectives. Create a public-private partnership to develop the Good Luck Road site, create a Lancaster County CDC, and create an economic incentives or grants to attract developers and contractors. So if those are our objectives, now we have to start filling in with tangible goals to reach our objectives, which eventually filter into reaching our strategy, right? And I pull this one up because I was given a report from April the 12th on housing, and Jimmy's passed out a paper copy of that. I don't know if you have anything online for Susan.
No, I'm sorry, I don't have it online.
All right, so Jim, why don't you cover that?
Good,
And then we'll just highlight it for Susan.
great,
We'll go from there.
all right. And again, Ty is the chair, but he's asked me to give this report. So so these sort of fall in under the objectives that Jason created. They're well stated. So what I've gone through is, we had a meeting, recently of our group, that was, David Jones was there, and Ty was there, and Gabe was there, myself. And so this is an update on what's going on. So under the create a public, this is a community development corporation, the middle one on the sheet. These are out of order. So a community development corporation is a not-for-profit organization created to support and revitalize communities by providing programs, service, and other initiatives, activities that promote and support community development. CDCs are usually serve a specific geographical location. So in this area, this CDC would be set up to benefit Lancaster County. And by definition, they're targeted towards direct investments in the community obtained from private and public sources. So as a nonprofit institution, CDCs are tax exempt, may receive unlimited donations, grants from private and public sources, and a significant portion of the funding will come from local governments. In our case, probably come from state and federal grants, such as Department of Housing and Urban Development and block grants. So we're working on putting together, Gabe is going to put together exactly what the application for the 501c3 approval will look like. And then we're going to present that to the county and just get their, to the Board of Supervisors, just get their blessing to go ahead and set up the CDC and go ahead and file for it. So we're working on that. And then number two, once we have the CD set up, then we're trying to figure out things, tangible things that we can do. Jones Felby has a housing project. Susan, what's the name of that subdivision? I can't remember the name of it. Springwood.
Springwood, it's over on, it's right off of Irvington Road,
Right.
wraps around to Black Stump.
So how many lots are in it total, Ty?
Yorkshire, sorry, I got it now. I was going to go with Fox, but Yorkshire Drive is the name of it.
41 total lots.
All right.
Oh, excuse me, 40 total lots.
All right, so there are 40 lots in there. Ty did the research, and he said that Mr. Felby still owns 23 lots. So what we want to do is approach Mr. Felby and ask him, once we get the CDC set up, if he'll donate those to the CDC. And we think that there's a good chance he might want to do that. He can get a tax deduction for donating them. And then he's at a point now where at his age where we think that he would like to see these lots, someone else do the heavy lifting in terms of continuing to create workforce housing. That was one of his goals. So we think if we could put those lots into the CDC, give him a tax deduction, then the CDC could go ahead and work on workforce housing, and selling the lots and helping people build houses in there would further that mission of creating workforce housing and also generate some income for the CDC to be doing other types of things. So we're going to be approaching Mr. Jones to see if that's something he would consider. We're still working on the Virginia Housing Plant. Virginia Housing Planning Grant. We've been back and forth with Virginia Housing. The grant that they suggested was more of was a wrong grant, we thought. It was to sort of build capacity, how you organize a board and all that. We don't need that. What we really need is a housing study. So we've gone back to them and saying, you know, we want to do a housing study focus. And so they're sending us a list of consultants. And we're still advancing that goal.
Jimmy, was that the $10,000 feasibility grant?
We think it's a $20,000. We think we can get a $20,000 grant for this planning grant. So we're working on that now. And then the fourth thing that we're working on is is the start to outline what an RFP might look like for the county to consider for the Good Luck Road site, something that advances some, you know, I think we're thinking about leaving it fairly loose so that people can come in with creative ideas, but something that advances the social goals of the county, something that we wouldn't expect the private sector to do, that is more likely to get done under public-private partnership than leaving it to the private sector alone. Things like workforce housing, something that might increase tourism, water access, economic development. And so Gabe is taking the lead on that, and we're going to be putting together an RFP for the Board of Supervisors to be considering. And
Jimmy, it would seem like the CDC, once that's up and operating, that we could target like our teachers in Mercer Place and have specific programs for them, or our public service safety officers that could have specific programs for them to get into housing.
That's right.
Local housing, and that the CDC could help facilitate that with grants or down payment assistance or various of options.
That's a good point, Jason, because it becomes a focused entity just working on that and looking.
Yep, because we sort of have that already, that's worked, Mercer Place model is working. Now, if we can anchor them here permanently by
Right.
getting them out of there, and that's a transition to a permanent housing situation here. That's kind of the ultimate model, I think, was for that goal, was to try to create that.
Yeah,
And there is room for expansion in Mercer Place.
that's right. And we've looked at that. We had a discussion recently at Bay Aging, as I think everybody knows. Mercer was turned over to Bay Aging just because it was hard for it to be managed as a one-off. So the problems right now of trying to make building another one at another building at Mercer Place right now is you got to raise so much cash in order to buy the rate down and to make it affordable. It's just tough to do in this environment with high interest rates and things, so.
Cost of materials
Yeah,
still high.
so, we're, Bay Aging will continue to look at trying to figure out, but I think this thing with Jones Felby may, like you say, is a good transition program in order to sort of move people out of rental units to housing.
Yep. And then the good thing is that once it's up and standing, that you can get essentially other estates that people would bequeath land or assets to the CDC.
Right.
To continue its ultimate mission of developing workforce housing.
Yeah, Gabe's done a good job on this.
And the county can also.
Yep.
Yeah, so some of the derelict properties that you've gotten back for non-payment of taxes can be,
And then also,
Transferred in.
there- with that CDC, what Gabe was saying, I mean, folks can donate the land
yeah.
as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can target for future.
Yeah, I was involved with the creation of a CDC in Hampton years and years ago. Yeah, so it was, I think that one is pretty well thriving now. Yeah.
But the bottom line is that the objectives that Jason's already outlined on that page, we think align with what we're working on.
Yeah, so what you're doing, what you may look at trying to establish some goals and timetables with it, like CDC creation by X date.
All right, good, we'll put some timetable on it.
Yeah, and that type of thing, because we need to get some definitive items in the plan like that.
Okay.
And those are some things that are measurable.
Good.
And,
It sounds like you got all the pieces there, you just need
Yeah.
to
Right.
basically
Right.
give the timetables, and then ultimately if there's cost to
Yeah.
assign to, we'll have to figure it
yeah.
out.
It's, one of the goals is to talk with Jones.
Right.
So establish a goal for that, and, yeah,
Who's the
yeah,
proper person to do that?
Yeah. Do you have a relationship with him, Paul?
a bad relationship with him.
Well, you don't-
You're not the first
we don't
person to
want
say
you to
that.
do that.
No, you don't even want to tell him I'm involved with
I
it.
got a bad relationship with him.
Yeah.
too. Yeah, but he asked me to do something and I refused to do it, and things went south after that.
Yeah.
That's the way things go south with him.
Yeah.
The reason we sort of looked at that one is because, number one, the mission statement was for him originally to provide workforce housing.
Right.
So we've also reached out to the town in Marshall, and that zoning, although we'd have to go back to the town to see if we could change, but it's multifamily, so there is a way that we could put duplexes, individuals say almost like a townhouse for sale in that community, so then you go from 23 to 46 livable housing units right there, because the water's in, the septic's in, so there's, and the infrastructure's already in, so we can literally hit the ground running on that one. It's not conceptual, it's there.
And I think, I don't know if it was a conversation with you or Jim, David Jones thinks he can keep that price in that 250 somewhere.
Right.
Well, he gave us, and I don't want to quote David, but he gave us what he's building on Weems Road, as far as that.
Yeah.
some pretty attractive.
That's
coming
for
from
ties
David
in?
Jones, yeah, this is his cost. And it was, let's just say I was surprised. It would easily fall into that category.
That's,
And again,
that's encouraging, because
and
I
then
didn't even
but-
think you
but
could build something
it's
for
just
that
even
cost
more valuable if you get
in this
two-
environment.
2 units on one. You know, kind of, just like a duplex that you can own each unit of. I mean, so
No,
So we know,
so
we know
the-
that Jones Felby is getting up in age and that he's got a reputation to be a little crusty, but we think at his core, he's got a good heart. This is exactly what he wanted to see done with this project. We think we've got we think we have a pretty compelling story to talk to him about.
Yeah, I think it aligns with his goals and objectives. He's got dead cost in the land now. He's over 90 years old and, you know.
Hello, Jessica.
Hi, Jess.
Hey, Paul,
Yeah,
just a request from out here in the peanut gallery. If everybody could use their mics, I could not hear Ty or Bill. And it might be just I don't know if their mics are on or if it's just the distance, but, if folks don't have their mic, I can't hear them.
Sorry,
all
Burnett.
right.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Susan.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to let you know before we went too much further.
All right. Thank you.
Do you have an extra copy of that?
Yep.
All right. So let's take a look at this one on, well, why don't we go to this one here? Because the next one I have up is recreation. And Jessica, thank you for coming. What we're doing is looking at starting to flesh out some of the objectives under a strategy. So you know what our initiative is, and then we have 6 core strategies. And then under the strategy, we have objectives, and now we're looking at, like this one here, when I move the page up, it should show the 3 objectives. And then under the objectives would be what we're going to talk about this morning, goals that are measurable and tangible, okay? So Jason, this has been your baby, so why don't you go ahead and talk about developing these objectives under the strategy?
Well, the first one here, develop multiple public access, seemed to have been a long-term goal that was always never achievable, but now it's gone to the other side of the coin where it's like a feast, and there's all kinds of opportunities and things out there. So it's a matter of like prioritizing those to the ones that can be most feasible that we either own or currently, but just recently, I think we have a new opportunity that has come up, potentially down on Annapoison Creek with property that we rezoned down there for Nate to be industrial for seafood processing. He's interested in working with the county to provide some public access. He's already got approval for a 200-foot pier. Me and Don were on site down there the other day. There's maybe some issues about access, road access, but I think those can probably be overcome. Don, do you want to add anything to that?
Yes, I was talking with Jimmy, but I think I know what you're talking about.
Six Road, that damn road.
Yeah, if we can get the issue of the width of the road ironed out, I think there's a great potential for an additional public access site there. 200-foot, 12-foot wide pier, I believe it is, Jason. Another boat ramp on Annapoison Creek, and a place for a canoe kayak launch, beautiful waterfront directly across from shucks, what is it? Pride of Virginia, right there, good water depth, a willing private participant. I think we can move quickly on any type of easement arrangements that needed to be recorded. The main issue is with the road, and he's done some preliminary work as far as talking with contractors And I'm going to follow up with the contractor that he talked to just to see if there's any I's undotted and T's uncrossed, so.
But that's another potential.
Yeah.
Highly desirable. It's a really great site.
So on these public access points, I know you've got several of them, like Carter's Cove and Windmill Point. What we need to do is flesh out, the timetables for those and the strategy.
As soon as I
Yeah.
think as we get our preliminary drawings back from our architects, which hopefully maybe will be by May at this point. I don't know if we're gonna get them now by
Yeah.
next
Yeah.
week.
They're,
Have they given
Yeah.
any indication
And-
they're gonna have them
no.
by April?
They're working on it because I've sent them a payment already, so, but I know you had asked about April. I think April's unrealistic, but I'll push them to see if they can have something by May, for sure.
Okay, because I mean, we need to get that really. I think once we have that, we can flush out the remaining timelines, because that'll give us an idea of, one, cost, and then we can start to get more definitive timelines, but that would then also be dependent on when the work can get done, and we know that's around here has been slower than molasses
Right.
in January.
Yeah, well, that's the goals that need, and then you're far enough along with this, these goals too, to actually start putting budgets together, because I know you're talking to the supervisors about that already.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the-
that should be easy to
That's the last
flesh
missing
out.
piece for mine, is just would be to flush out modern, up-to-date timelines, as well as fill in the budget numbers. But other than that, my goals and strategies under these are pretty much developed.
Right.
The public access one sites, that'll always be a little bit in flux, depending on which ones are moving faster than others.
Yeah. So are we considering road signage and everything with VDOT and getting people to the sites once we have them?
That would be part of the plan that's submitted by the architect to the Board of Supervisors for approval, yes.
Okay. Yeah, how does the Tri-Way Trail fit into this objective?
I think, well, I mean, that's another one of the public access sites. I think too, once we get all these public access sites, the marketing plan would be to get them in with the Northern Neck water trails and other avenues that are already promoting public access around here, but as also as well, we can develop our own pages off our webpage for public access. So somebody could go to landcover.com, click on public access, and we could have a link or a little blurb about every site under a page, and they could see what amenities are there and pictures of the sites,
Yeah.
is what I envision.
Well, that would
Hey,
need to go
Paul?
on the 2035 page too. Yes, Susan?
Just to add to that, one of the things that is coming from the ARPA tourism money that the county is receiving, and most of that's going to be used for Thomas Landing Pier, but there's a marketing component of that. And there will be a landing page on Virginia's River Realm that we're creating as part of supporting that tourism grant that will outline not only Thomas Landing, but will outline all the water access points within the county,
So,
wherever they come from.
sounds like we're on plan
And I'm
for
talking about
that.
public access, not necessarily private waterfront dining as an example, but that's coming too. So we'll have either a landing page that 2035 can pull off of, or the county can pull off of as well. So there will be multiple avenues, I think, for that public information to get out in the marketplace.
Yeah, it needs to be published at least 6 different ways for people to finally start to get it. So between that and road signs and tourism websites and everything, I think that'll work. The second objective, continued community partnerships. We are working on the employment of a recreational coordinator for the county, so that would fall under this particular strategy. And you've gotten communication, I believe, you should have got some from Chris Braley over at Dreamfields, and also from the Boys and Girls Club recently about the availability there. So,
And we've got the recreational coordinator position in the FY '24 budget as a county position, as opposed to a Y position, as we
Right.
talked about previously. So that's in the budget that hopefully will be approved May 26, whatever that last Thursday in May is, and then be effective July 1 of this year.
Yeah. So we need to get that fleshed out with the objectives. You already gave the timetables. Yeah. And then the succession to that would be you got the person employed. Now we've got to get the timetables up for what he's going to be doing. You know, when are we going to be offering adult basketball, and when are we going to start offering adult softball? You know, that kind of thing. So, and that'll come out in the plan and also be communicated through various media. And I'm hoping that 2035 site that we have as a hot link off Lancova site will be able to articulate all this too. All right. This third objective, cultivate relations that promote the arts and culture of the community. What are you thinking about there, Jason?
I think just grow our relationships with such like the community of the arts and Rappahannock Foundation for the Arts and other groups like that.
So how, what tangible, measurable things are we going to do to foster those relationships?
I'm not sure I don't have that document right in front of me if I've built that one out yet or not. We'll have, maybe, that's probably the least developed, I think, of my strategies. So that one needs to be probably flushed out even better than it already is.
Well, one thing we can say is that when we were talking about what size to build the auditorium for the new school, the Rappahannock Foundation for the Arts pledged, I think, $450,000 if the county would build the larger auditorium, and so the board agreed to do that. So, you know, that may fall under that.
It definitely would,
You
yeah.
said pledge 450,000,
Yeah.
450,000.
Yes, that's what it was.
They I don't know where that's the right word, but that, okay, I follow what you're saying. But
Yeah. They did commit that to the project, unless you know something that I don't know right now.
No, they did say that they'd put 450,000 toward it.
Yeah.
Hey, Jess, Susan can't hear you unless you're talking to the mic.
They did say they would put 450,000 toward it, toward the auditorium.
Well, that would sort of be that's a good example of that.
Yes.
Cultivating those relationships and growing those relationships.
Yeah, and I think in the Triway Trail, doesn't Jimmy have a node for a sculptor and art?
Yeah, and Brett Dawson, who is the building official now, had a
Building
meeting.
inspector.
What, pardon me?
Building inspector.
Building inspector. He had a meeting yesterday. He's working on an initiative to build a garden on the school site that's not, the portion of the school site that's not being used at Hills Quarter. So there is some movement forward on somebody else sort of picking up a node of activity along that line over there.
Like a botanical garden or
Yeah,
something like that?
Yeah. So
Yeah,
he's-
that plan isn't set in place yet. They love it. It's a great idea, but I don't think we're quite there yet. We're
Right,
meeting
right.
with
He's
Brett on
he's working
Friday.
on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna be talking, he's talked to the school board some, I think. I know he's getting ready to.
He just
come.
presented to them, but I
Yeah.
think we need to figure out a plan on how to move forward with that.
Right, but I was just saying, in terms of that, some type of sculpture garden or initiative, there is a private, there's someone else working on an initiative now along that line.
Is there a plan to have greenhouses and stuff at the new school site? Like they do in Northumberland, like to have sort of a program where you would have,
We hope to have a program similar, but right now they offer that at the technical center too, the horticulture program. We don't have plans for a greenhouse on site right now.
But you do have plans for partnering with the food bank.
Healthy
Oh,
Harvest
yes.
Food Bank, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
We have
because-
plans for partnering with them and being one of the first school systems to
They
be a
have a
part
new
of the Fresh
program.
Harvest.
Yeah.
with the
Yeah,
aquaculture?
very
Yeah,
cool.
agriculture,
We're so
yeah.
excited about it.
Yeah,
Yeah, they'll actually be providing food to our school.
yes, that's part of the strategy, yeah. Isn't that cool? Well, I've got everyone's attention with that. April 29th is the Diamonds and Denim Gala, and if anyone would like to go, I have some tickets available. It's a Saturday night. David Jones is finishing up that center. We're expecting that it'll be finished in May, and it actually connects to the Healthy Harvest Food Bank, and the gala will be there. So if anyone would like to go, let me know. I'll get you a couple of tickets. It's a dinner, it's a live auction and silent auction. If anyone's been to the YMCA Festival of the Trees, it's patterned after that. And so just let me know in the next couple of days, and I'll have some tickets available for you guys. April 29th, Saturday. It's going to be a pretty good size event. The tent will seat about 240 people.
While we're on recreation, this is a question for Susan. Susan, I was with some folks a couple weekends ago, and they mentioned the BMX park in Kilmarnock, and they said it's for real. Is that true?
Whoa.
Yeah, well, I think I have learned that I'm not supposed to use the word BMX. We're supposed to use mountain trail, mountain biking, because there is a difference in the biking community. I don't know what that is, but apparently there is. Yeah, we are working with our neighbor, and we've got Bay Design under contract to get an easement across our neighbor's property. We just got to go across a little, I'll say a sliver of the next door neighbor piece that crosses the ravine. And that will put us back onto our own property, which was the Old Town dump site. And then our plan is to develop that. We'll actually give a piece of roadway back to VDOT, which we think they will like. But all of that ravine back there is targeted for that development.
Oh, that's awesome.
So our first step is to get the easement. We got Bay Design working on that now. And then as soon as we can kind of get over onto our own property from Town Center Park, we can proceed on.
So Jason, you can build that out as part of the strategy too, just coordinating the timetables and everything with Susan. So from those focus group meetings, that leaves the only other thing that they had mentioned was a skateboard park. Is there any conversations going on about that?
I'm not aware of any. Are you, Susan?
No, we're not having any. I'm not sure we've got the right space left at Town Center Park for that anymore. And we kind of need, the same individual who is going to help us on the mountain biking side was, that was Chris Cornwell, was excited about skateboarding, as was PJ Jones, but I think the mountain biking piece has kind of surpassed that in terms of interest level. At least people coming to us to help do the developing side of it.
Oh, that sounds pretty exciting, though. That may be something to look at the Good Luck Road property, if we're developing a park there.
Hey, Paul, just a quick update while we mentioned the Tri-Way Trail. There are two things going on right now. I was just talking to Don. I'm going before the Board of Supervisors this month's meeting to request some funding, ARPA funding, to build that first connector 2,400 feet from Harris Road over to the existing golf course. So that will sort of open up a large section of about 1.5 miles of trail. When we get that added to the golf cart. So you basically be able to go from a hospital road to Compass on the trail this
Would
year.
that build parking, like a trailhead parking essentially?
It wouldn't, but we can use the parking at Hills Quarter
Okay.
is a tie-over. And then the second thing is I got contacted last Monday evening by Senator Warner's office saying if I could get something whipped together in 48 hours, that they thought there was an opportunity to get us some funding. So we put a request. He said to keep it under $1 million. There was some infrastructure funding. So the body language from his state director was pretty positive. And so we whipped together a proposal and put it in a request for like $982,000. And so we're, there may be brewing something there with some funding for Tri-Way Trail if I was reading his body language right. So we got that done last week. That took a lot of work.
Yeah. So Jimmy, that master plan that you created for the Tri-Way Trail, are the time schedules
There aren't any real hard set time schedules in there, you know? That was sort of just a master concept, and
Yeah.
now what we've done right now is, you know, we've dedicated the open space easement across the Hills Quarter property. Now we're doing the engineering surveying across the Tides End property. They're fully on board. I met with Ben Burton and Bay Design on that yesterday. With that's coming to completion. As soon as we get that done, then we'll put that easement to record to tie to the Hills Quarter. Then we'll start the engineering surveying through the Westminster Canterbury property. So those three properties will get us 75% of the way to Irvington. Had meetings the other day with the Pattersons and the owners of Vineyard Grove on the other end of Irvington, and they're on board. And so there are only a couple properties in there that are needed, two couple of property owners to tie that leg together. We think we're getting close to getting the whole route worked out from Kilmarnock to Irvington.
Okay, that's good. So the right-of-ways are all recorded.
Ransom's own part of that through the old Fisher Pit there area. Does it connect down through there any?
They are not playing ball. I talked to them.
I guess if we approve the ARPA
They're on the
funds,
other side of the stream. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
we approve the ARPA funds, and
Yes.
I'm asking this question because we get so many questions from
Right.
the community. The piece you talked about that you could complete up to the campus, what kind of time you think that would
Yeah, Bill, so
require?
this would be from the Hospital Road over to where the golf course cart paths are.
Okay.
And so there's 2,400 feet coming through there. We would like to put the RFP, if we get the approvals to use the ARPA fund, we're prepared to go ahead and structure it, you know, with Don, work with Don to get an RFP done because it will have to be bid out under the county. And as soon as we can get a contractor in there, I'd like to think we're starting construction on that this year. A lot of it is fairly open. We've already got it all staked out, so we can show a contractor exactly what needs to be done. So this would be a gravel surface. I'm not worried about paving this path right now. If we can get a hard packed gravel surface that is good for biking and walking, I'd rather try to get the trail built from Kilmarnock to Irvington at the most reasonable cost possible, and then go back at a later date and worry about paving. But let's see how far we can get without spending the least amount of money possible to get it done. So so that's, so the answer is, we'd like to get that done this year if possible.
So Jimmy, all the right-of-ways are obtained through the farmland that goes to Hills Quarter? Is there farmland, you say you're going to the hospital property, right?
Right, so I own over to the hospital road.
Oh, so you're gonna go that way, not where the farm,
Not where the Harris Farm is.
Yeah, no, yeah.
It would stay within the property that I own, because we've already got an alignment through there that we gave to schools for a road. So it sort of follows a road that's already been dedicated to,
okay.
yeah.
Which is if you're coming up Harris Road from Irvington Road, it's
Right,
past,
just past DMV Drive on the right.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, past the Wiley Child Development
right.
Center. And
That's right.
back in that wooded area that goes
That's
back
right.
in there. Yeah,
Right.
good.
So anyway,
Because we need, would that include walkways or to get to where like the YMCA is?
right. We're going to be working on that, Paul, on how we do that. We're probably going to have to stay on because of, anyway, we've got a plan. We're working on that.
Okay.
I won't get into the weeds right now. But
Yeah, because I know,
So Susan and I actually talked yesterday. We're getting ready to have a meeting with VDOT to start talking about, I'm really looking to the town to talk about how they get from the town center
Park.
to Town Center Park to the Harris Road connectors. You know, so and we're working on that. We had a meeting the other day on it, and we're getting ready to have a meeting with VDOT to talk about how that might work.
yeah, I know another item you talked about for years is to put an exercise trail between the Y and the hospital.
Right.
Is that
That's still out
in the
there.
works?
Yeah, it's just a lack of bandwidth on mine
Susan,
to get that worked out yet. But I think there's a good chance we can do that.
Susan. Are you there? I was gonna see, where does the do you ever know where the sidewalk goes out on that side of, where it ends?
Where the sidewalk ends on coming out of Kilmarnock.
Yeah, on 200 there?
Yeah, it's sort of across from the,
Because it seems to me between the county, the
Across the
hospital, the school system, that we need to extend the sidewalk from wherever it ends in the town on down to the hospital
Right.
and to the new school.
right.
Yeah, I've had conversations with the town already on trying to get that sidewalk brought down. Because I'm told that it won't, it's not gonna be in this year's, because they got like a 5-year plan. And Susan, I don't know if she's back or not.
Well,
but
we should try to coordinate that with the new school construction, so it all kind of takes place at the same time. So when the new school opens, the sidewalk connects from the town to that side of town. Because they built a sidewalk on the other side of town to nowhere.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
it literally goes to
Well,
nothing.
that's why I thought I had more of an argument for this one than that one, but it seemed like that got in the plan, because there's actually kids now walk down over to the Y.
Yeah.
And there's no way for them to walk but in the ditch,
Yeah,
you know? And it's the same thing from the early childhood center coming back to the Y.
Yeah.
That's a problem, and
Well,
so I
it seems
addressed that
with all the motion of development in that area that we
Yeah.
can coordinate to make that small
ideally,
piece
what we'd
happen.
like to do, and I know we got, well, I'll be quick, Paul, because I know we got other things to go. Before we get to the stoplight at Harrison Road, we'd like to go through the woods so that they don't keep them from walking on the side of the road down there at that intersection. So hopefully, before you get to Harris Road, we'll go through the woods and then come in to the Y through the woods there, create a pathway through there. But it's gonna take some property owner to do it. And I'm looking to the town to get that figured out.
Yeah, yeah. And what Bill was talking about is a really big problem for the early Wiley Childhood Development Center, because they have kids right now trying to get across, little ones,
Yeah.
trying to get across Harris Road to go between the Y and there.
Yeah, the
And
trail,
so that-
the trail will solve that
Yeah, I
problem.
think, yes, it would. And I know that there's been some communication with the town and the county about that. It's a really dangerous environment we need to solve, which could all solve in this whole process, too.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a good time to coordinate whatever the plan is,
Yeah.
because we'll be doing a lot of construction in that area and development, so
Yeah,
a sidewalk or a path is a small thing to add.
right. Okay, I have up the broadband one. I think this is going to be pretty quick. Obviously, you have 3 objectives there: create a broadband authority. You've already done that, so that timeline can be completed on that. Connect all residents, we got that still on schedule there?
Still on schedule,
Have they
yes.
given any update to the Broadband Authority on when they're planning to start? Because I thought they said the first or second quarter. We're
Yeah.
in the second quarter now, so.
Well, the Broadband Authority has a meeting tomorrow afternoon, same time the Board of Supervisors has their budget meeting. They're going to meet in my office, and they have a representative from All Points Broadband that is going to be there tomorrow to update them on, so I'll know more after that.
Okay.
But they still say everything is on schedule to be complete by the end of 2023.
All right, and then this last one, work with existing providers to increase performance. Is anyone dealing with that at all? I know down in our area, they put fiber in.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
there was another VATI grant that Breeze Line was a part of, and the county was a part with 4 other counties, and Breeze Line has finished that grant work. They've also updated quite a bit of their infrastructure on their own, knowing that competition is coming from All Points Broadband. And we also have the wireless provider, Broadband Telecom Services, that has, acquired the old Signal Wave equipment, updated that, and has put out a very reliable wireless system. So I think, based on those 3 competitors, there's, there won't be a monopoly on this, and competition should help, price plans.
Yeah. And so, Don, you're the liaison with this one. Can you get some of those goals that are measurable and tangible? You got a lot of them. One of the things that we had mentioned earlier, and I don't know if the Broadband Authority is working on this, is it's great to have the fiber in the ground, but is it affordable to everyone? And is there any thoughts about pricing, grants, that type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think the cheapest plan for the all points broadband is $59.99. There's also a government subsidy program that if you meet certain income levels, you can qualify for a $30 reduction per month. So if all those things play out, the cheapest plan could be as cheap as $29.99 a month.
Good.
And as far as the undergrounding, all points will underground fiber where electricity is underground to properties, and where the electricity is overhead, the fiber will be overhead.
Okay.
Breezelaw has the
Yeah.
same requirements.
All right, so, Don, could you sort of flesh out some of the goals there and timelines
Yeah, I can work on
for
that.
that one? All right, Jessica, let me see if I can find the education one. There we go. Let's bring that sucker up. There we are. You had indicated that your board was going to start a strategic planning process
Yes,
this
we
spring,
are.
so.
We plan to have that. We haven't started it yet. We have been so busy. Everything keeps getting backed up, but we're still planning on doing that this spring. Providing new facilities, or well in the works on that. We're about 20% into the design phase for the new facilities. So, and we do have a timeline for that. So, once we get a little further in there, we can share some of that. And a big focus for next year is that preparing students for plans following high school. So we've dedicated personnel to that next year and are currently working on a roadmap for that. And we hope to have a pretty visual, like an actual roadmap visual that we can add to that as well so that people can see it. That's going to be a process over the next couple of years, but there are going to be momentous spots along that timeline that make a big difference. And then, of course, we're always continuing to do the best we can with instruction and curriculum with our kids.
Yeah. All right, well, I think these objectives were created by Jason, and
I basically copied
Yeah.
these from what she.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So is there anything else that we should include in these objectives? Like graduation rates, dual enrollments?
Well, I think a lot
things
of that
like-
will be covered in the strategic plan.
Yeah,
So I think when the strategic plan is added to this, and maybe that becomes one of the objectives or goals, is the strategic plan itself. A lot of those will be covered in there, because we could go on and on about
yeah,
so many pieces. So I think that strategic plan would nicely wrap it up, and it would include the goals.
yeah. So as far as fleshing out this part for the county, are there any measurable goals other than, I think there's a timeline for the new schools that can be brought into it?
Yeah, I think the timeline for the new schools and the renovation and the merge of the schools too is important to put out there for next year, but also that roadmap for post-secondary plans is something that will be completed in the very near future that we could add to that as a visual. And it would give a timeline. It will have a timeline on it.
Okay. All right, so we can go forward there. Have you heard anything from our friend Eric at the?
I haven't.
He's,
I need to get with him. I guess he's super busy.
yeah,
I have
well,
trouble getting with him.
I have left a message or two and never gotten a response. What we're talking about is the trade school aspect of of what we were trying to do for, under the business-friendly job creation strategy. And he was supposed to have a questionnaire out to all contractors in January.
Yeah, and
And
I'd
the-
like to hear more about the one-to-one program too.
Yeah, and the one on, yeah, yeah. There was several things we were working on, and he's gone silent on us. So I don't know what's gone on there. Last time I talked with him was over the holidays at Christmas.
I will say, as far as the recreation goes, I'm using that as a heavy recruitment tool, the public access points in the county. Because when you're trying to get someone to this area, we try to sell the water. So those have been really nice to be able to say to people we're trying to bring.
Yeah.
What about,
And recruitment's
doing-
hard right now.
What about, I know we talked about before how Brad Smith had put one of those kayak type of things down at Windmill Point. What if we put something like that at Mercer Place?
I believe they have some kayaks there now, but ever since the transition has taken place with Mercer Place, we don't have a lot of teachers going in there. They're all filled. They're not, we used to be able to save some of the spots for teachers, but they seem to be filled for whatever reason. So, but I believe they have kayaks there for them to use. I know a few years ago they did, because I know my teachers used to use them. So,
Well, Jessica, I know that, teachers is a big priority, so if you want to have a conversation with Bay Aging, I'd be happy to have it with them, to sort of say, what can we do to direct any vacancies come up to teachers?
that would be great, because those apartments at Mercer Place are also a huge selling point. When people are coming so far from home, and we can say, we have this nice little community here, and there are other teachers here, and sometimes you can room with people and save on rent, so
I think what happened, Jim,
that would be great.
They had such a waiting list
Yeah,
over there. So, if it was a policeman on the waiting list,
yeah,
Yeah.
that's really what happened.
Yeah.
It's the lack of housing, really.
That's right.
It's affecting.
Yeah. What's happening with that complex that's on James B. Jones Memorial Highway? I see what price range is that going to be in?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Do you have any insights on what?
It's only conjecture. I mean, I don't know for a fact, but I mean, I just heard there were gonna be higher end rentals, townhome type rentals.
Yeah, because,
But, I mean, Susan might know, but I'm just guessing, Paul.
It says luxury apartments on
Yeah,
the
they're-
sign. So that sounds to me,
Translation,
that's
high-
translation,
high
high
rentals.
expensive rent.
They was north of 1,000 anyhow.
yeah.
Got it.
Correct. That's correct.
Okay.
But is there a way that Jessica can market that to potential teachers if there was, roommate, two roommates maybe, that type of thing? I don't know what his demand is going to be.
What is the rent at Mercer Place now? You don't know?
It's been a couple years.
Eight seven-
Like,
75.
it's just under 800, I think.
That's cheap.
Yeah, I think it's between 8 and 9. I think it went up a
mean-
little bit a couple years ago. If they shared it with somebody, it was affordable. Typically, they didn't go into one by themselves. Every so often, somebody did. But any ideas for housing this time of year, if anybody has any, we'll take them, because we're trying to strongly recruit, and it's a tough market out there right now. And, of course, we want to get the best, so.
So Susan, is there anything on the drawing boards or under development there in the town?
Well, there's a lot of activity pending, I'll just say. None of it is in what I would call affordable housing yet. I think we're still a ways off, because the market just does not support the private sector at the price point we need.
I might be stepping out of bounds here, but maybe the county and the town could get together to rework zoning, like larger metropolitan areas do, where if you want specific higher density zoning, you have to provide X amount of affordable dwelling units for the workforce housing. I mean, it's not new, but obviously we don't do it around here. Just a suggestion.
We've already got that provision in our R4 zoning
That's
district.
right, the county does. Does the town have that, Susan?
I don't believe we do. We could. I think the one thing that I see, and I don't disagree at all, Ty, I think that's the way to go. It's to figure out who's got the bandwidth to do a big enough project where you've got enough units in total that you can then offer a portion that is for workforce housing.
That's going to be a key component of the Good Luck Road site.
Yeah. Well, it's like the two, Russell Harper next to Walmart, Susan, and then who knows what's going on behind Tractor Supply, but you guys have, that's all primed and ready to go as far as
Yeah.
higher density.
Russell Harper is primed, he's at 100 and, let's just call it 125 units at Walmart.
And that's for
You know, we'll
sale
see when he
product,
pulls
right,
it-
Susan?
I'm sorry?
That's for sale product, not rental.
That is for sale product, that is not rental. That's correct.
So there's like condos,
It's a combination of single-family homes and
and
townhouses.
that's behind Tractor Supply, you said, or?
That's-
No, it's by
that's-
Walmart.
That's
No, that's
different.
at the
This
end
is
of the
one
cul-de-sac,
basically behind
next to
the vet.
Walmart.
Okay.
And
I see.
behind Tractor
Piece.
Supply, there's no traction behind Tractor Supply at the moment.
But that's ready to go for single family and multifamily, correct?
It's all zoned, but there's no developer movement on that.
I know this is just kind of throwing it out there, and the county's got plenty of money, so that's why I'm doing it. I mean, is there any way that the county would consider buying said product and putting it in their inventory? I don't know. I don't want to put anybody on the spot.
Buying what, more land?
No, just like what, if Russell Harper's building 123 units, maybe the county buys 10. I don't know, keeps them in a housing stock. I don't even know if that's
I mean, the
possible.
CDC that could be developed, I think, would do that, but I don't think the county would be interested in being,
That's a good point,
would
too.
be interested in being a property owner per se. A property manager is what I'd call that.
So,
But it would be something like the CDC, which would be kind of like the broadband authority is, a hat under the board could hold a portfolio of properties.
Just trying to think.
so what was
the people-
Warsaw doing for its businesses? A little different, but they have a lot of redevelopment going on in Warsaw. And there
Well,
was
they-
something doing with sales tax and.
They used
paying
a
people-
percentage of their meals tax in the town of Warsaw for their incentive grants that they did for the revitalization. So they gave different amounts of essentially cash to those businesses to recruit them to Warsaw. And some of that came in the form of direct payments of just here's a check and here's what we require of that check. And some of them became in the form of rent abatement. So they abated 50% of the rent for 5 years.
But the county didn't own the property, though, that they were abating, right? Then were they paying down the rent for?
They paid down the rent through essentially a grant. So, no, it was they're mostly private owners that owned
Yeah.
those buildings that rented them out. So the town gave $50,000, say, to Rappahannock Brewing Company to pay down their rent. I don't know what incentive they got. Chesapeake Donut got 25 grand.
So
Yeah,
could,
just for their facades and such.
all right, so what I was thinking about, and I don't know if it's feasible or not, so the property that is on James B. Jones Memorial Highway, is there a way that we can help new workforce coming in, teachers, policemen, firemen, that type of thing, by helping to buy down their rent from the landlord?
I mean, again, I think these are all things the CDC could technically have under its umbrella to develop and coordinate and manage. But yeah, the same way the town did, the town of Kilmarnock could take some of their meals tax, and the town, or the county of Lancaster could supplement with some tax dollars into a pot of money that could issue types of grants. Again, that could be directed by our Economic Development Authority, it could be directed by the CDC, it depends on what it is or how it is structured and who would best be the implement agency to direct those funds. Susan?
So Paul, just to piggyback on an earlier part of the conversation, Mercer Place is going to be managed by Bay Aging moving forward. And it seems to me that that's we need to understand how that business model is going to work, because that's somebody who knows how to manage housing today. We don't have to burden the as yet to be developed CDC. We don't burden the jurisdictions, but Bay Aging knows how to do that. Now, whether the model is exactly what it is for Mercer Place or not, I'm not sure, but Jimmy, don't you think we could have a conversation about the business model of Bay Aging and see whether or not we could duplicate that on a trial basis for, 6 units, 10 units of housing?
Right. The
For
problem
teachers?
there is it takes a lot of cash to buy that down. In other words, you need, in order to have the loan at a level to support a low rent, you got to put a lot of cash in the project in order to get the loan down to the point where the ongoing loan cost supports a low rent. And that's the problem of where to come up with that cash infusion. We
Yeah,
can talk
well,
about it.
Yeah, I guess I'm not talking about the loan per se. I'm just saying if we could, the royal we, if we could lease 5 units from somebody, whoever's coming forward with the soonest available housing stock, if we somehow could lease that so that our teachers who sign up for a multi-year contract, and maybe the county's got to give them a multi-year contract as opposed to a shorter term contract, and then there's some buy down of their rent that's paid directly to the property owner. It doesn't go
Right.
through the teacher.
Right.
But it's effectively a buy down, and then we figure out what tax dollars are used to do that. But the developer has still got the construction cost. There's no loan. It's
Yeah.
effectively a cash infusion to the owner, maybe in exchange for some reduced rent as well for a multi-year tenant.
Right.
I mean, this,
I'm just saying, I think that
Right, I think
there's a
you're onto
business
something.
model out there.
Right.
I think,
It's that Warsaw model.
yeah, I mean,
That's what we're talking about.
in a way too, we could incentivize, or we could create under the EDA probably a program that would be a grant program for housing for our public service providers, teachers, firefighters, any of them. It could, one, provide down payment assistance if they wanted to buy, or it could provide renting assistance for those who are renting.
When we talk about a recruiting tool, Jesus.
It's huge, and then, we do a lot with other people in the community to help pay for teachers, to get certified in different areas, and then we get to lock them in for a couple years when we do that. So maybe tied to this is somehow, if you get that grant, somehow you are committing to so many years of service too, to the school system, or I don't know how every other group works, but that, when we had those guaranteed spots at Mercer Place, that was a huge selling point.
So who can take the lead on that right now? Because that's the way that,
I think the housing, this is probably in the housing committee zone. We'll look at it.
okay. Because it's something that can provide some immediate relief.
Right. Right.
And there's a desperate need for teachers
Right.
and their professionals as workforce
Right.
coming into this community, so it fits exactly what
Right.
what
Problem
we're
is, in
trying
the
to
short
do.
term is there are no apartments that sort of,
Well,
but
see-
it might induce someone to build something if they.
Either that, or we could just create an incentive grant type of program that would say, if you rent to a teacher or you rent to a cop, you can apply for a grant and get $5,000 or $10,000
Yeah.
supplement to whatever your rent is, or to reduce the rent to that person.
Yeah, but someone would have to present that to the county or through the EDA. I mean, who's going to coordinate? So Jimmy, from,
The housing committee, we'll look at it.
you'll look at it and see if you can work through mechanics
Yeah.
and then,
Hey, Susan, I'm having a senior moment. Who's the developer of the apartments there in Irvington?
Lee Self.
Lee Self.
Lee Self, yeah.
Yeah.
Lee Self, Leland Corporation.
Yeah, I can talk to
There
Lee.
are-
I can talk to Lee and see if there's any.
Yeah, there's
if
2
any-
buildings, Jimmy. There's a total of 12 units there.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Jimmy, if I can help with any of that from this side, let me know.
And anecdotally, Jessica, I just want to, when we build new schools, we're seeing at the hospital, I talked to Linda St. George the other day, who runs our lab. We just built a new lab, and it's really, she said that she had a problem in the past. She waited 18 months trying to find somebody to work in the lab. She said with the new lab, she's gotten all sorts of applications for people that want to work. So there is some relationship between a new shiny box and people wanting to work there, so I think.
100%.
What, is there any plan for a teacher dormitory over at the new school? Because Jimmy, do you have any additional
Great
land we
idea.
can build a dormitory?
We're using the new building as a recruitment tool too. Don't worry. We have
Yeah.
pictures of it and we're telling them, we're going to have this new building. And so, because it is appealing to come to a nice new building that feels like it's important, to the community. So,
I mean, environment is a big selling point to a lot of people. I mean,
yeah. And right now, if you're coming from, say, PA and you come down for a tour and you go tour our high school and then you go tour Westmoreland's high school, even if the pay's a couple $100 more, you know where you're going. Unless someone can say, we've got housing, and we do a lot for our teachers. But we have some very good appealing aspects that no one else has. But, that will be yet another big selling point.
So this, if we are able to create a lease buy-down program for public service workers in the short term, that could be a real catalyst to what we're trying to accomplish.
It all goes back to housing, I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
Well, I've said, we have 6 core strategies, and I have said all along that they all have to sort of come up together, but the more I thought about it over the last 18 months, I believe that housing is a pivotal one that sort of leads all others, because if we can't get, even, we see it with the school system, but it's virtually anyone. You try to get a plumber, a carpenter, a tradesperson in here. You look at David Jones, he's got signs for hiring carpenters all the time out there, and he can't find anyone. But there's no place for him to live.
He can't get an applicant.
Yeah. But I mean, if we had some sort of program, at least for public service workers, that we can get up and pilot it, that may be a real boon for what we're trying to do. The other thing that I think is significant that we haven't really talked about very much on this committee, but I think it's a pivotal issue, is we had no accredited infant care in this county. It's hard to bring in young people 30, 35 years old without infant care, until we were able to get that program going with the YMCA again and the Wiley Foundation. The Wiley Foundation made a 3-year grant of $110,000 a year to the Y to offer infant care. There are 12 babies in there now and a waiting list. And they're taking children down as early as 6 weeks old. And if right now, I was in there 2 weeks ago, and there was a 9-week-old that they had in there. And, it's a key component too, we sort of overlooked it, but we thought about it from the Y standpoint. And I mean, that's a selling point for your teachers too. The problem is a capacity problem that we have with the Wiley Child Development Center. And it's fundamentally, it's extremely expensive to offer. 91% of the children at the Wiley Child Development Center are under a scholarship program. Every child in the infant care is under a scholarship program. And so it's...
well, that too could be something that the school system could develop an incentive grant to, under their program, to offer childcare as a benefit essentially to their teachers.
Yeah.
Some kind of childcare
Yeah.
supplement or payment to help offset the cost.
Right.
for the first year.
What I'm saying is, it's just sort of something this committee sort of overlooked. We picked it up at the Y, though, and it's, right now, it's going full bore. With not student to teacher ratio, the caregiver to baby ratio for that age group is 1 caregiver per no more than 3 children. And so it's really, really expensive to
Well,
offer.
during COVID, the town and the county teamed up to provide basically that to its own employees. So it seems
Exactly.
to me there's enough demand internally to have sort of its own, that the school system could offer its own sort of internal program that would support just its own employees.
For
Well,
like
I
age
tell
0
you,
to 2.
this housing thing,
Because once they're 3, they
Paul,
go in early
is
childhood.
number one, problem because, Jessica, you remember, it was brought up at one of our executive meetings by the builder. Do we have any place for the contractors to stay
Yeah,
if they come in here,
Yeah.
No. We can
No,
say, well,
we
you
don't.
can search the Airbnbs, something like that, but it's a problem, it's a problem that goes past what we just been talking about.
oh, yeah, it's huge. It's something that we need immediate relief on. And if we have to put some money on in the short term, at least get some pilot programs up and see if we're working, I think it can be a real catalyst to the whole initiative.
Are there any like renter barons, as to say, around here, like people that own multiple rental properties or have a portfolio of rental properties that they have and could be approached to
I don't think so.
offer some of those properties
I
up
think it's
to?
Wednesdays and Tuesdays. I really don't think there
You
is
got
any.
Harvey Place,
Yeah.
right there behind Town Park. You got Thomas Landon up in Mollusk.
That Harvey Place stays pretty crowded, doesn't it? Isn't there
There's
a
a wait
waiting
list
list?
for there
Yeah.
as well.
It's full.
Yeah.
The only one I know that owns a lot is, help me with her name. She's the one that the building just burned down, and what's her name, right there?
Tracy.
Tracy.
Tracy Hayden.
She's got a pretty extensive, including someone out on Church Street. She's got that brick
Yeah, she
building
got
down on
that
Church
building.
Street.
Granted, I imagine they're all full, but at a time, if we could create some kind of program to incentivize sort of
Sure,
these
and-
people that
and
if
quite-
you rent to a teacher, you would get an offset from this grant program.
Yeah, but those are really,
Yeah, well, like Jason's saying, if we can get a program started, it could encourage builders to build these rental properties.
and we got, like I said, Indian Creek Apartments behind the Marathon, and then right there across from Ace Hardware. I don't know if they're owned by the same people or not. I don't know what that, right there next to the middle school. I don't know how many units are in there. They may be owned by the same people, but I'm not sure.
Middle school. Oh.
Several of
another
those are
project.
owned by the same folks. Those are all rent subsidized. You have to qualify as an extremely low income,
Was that-
either low income or extremely low income, in order to go into those facilities. I do not think a teacher will qualify
I foresee
to go into those.
a very simple program of something like, if you're an owner of a property and you can certify that you've rented that to a teacher or a firefighter or a public service provider of some kind, then you can then go fill out an application for this form and get a $5,000 or $10,000 grant if you've certified that you're renting to one of those folks and it's less than, say, the rent's less than $1,000. Something along those lines.
Would it be time, and I know this wouldn't help Jessica right now, but just like what the Venus got planned for outside of Kimani, would it be time right now to actually get in conversation with them? Because they've already had be designed down there to do their part.
I've seen the plans.
Yeah, so, would this be the time?
The Beanies, where it was,
Yeah.
what was it? It was a plumbing doctor. What was his name? It was his property. What was his name? Gibson,
Well,
that's it.
yeah,
His-
yeah.
Leonard Gibson.
Yeah.
It was his so when you turn to go to Mowbray's, in between Mowbray's and Beanies, there's a already approved site, correct, Susan? I think it's 14 units.
Yeah.
14.
Yeah, it's either 13 or 14 townhouse units
Yeah.
that's already been approved.
Yeah, so I was wondering if it's,
But they're
okay,
gonna be
now
for
is the
rent.
time to get, to talk to them, but, okay, hey, if you set aside 4 of these
So
units
many.
for teachers, we can do such and such, just see if they're even interested in doing something like that.
I can
Might
talk
be the
to, I can
perfect
talk to
timing.
Dwayne. I can call Dwayne and find out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think our best bet for unspoken for housing that is in progress is the crossroads of the Chesapeake with Lee Self. I mean, he is, he's already in upright structures now. Everybody else is still, still land to be broken, so to speak. And if we really want to try something for this fall, I think Lee Self is,
Those nice
at least that project is far further along than anything else.
Yeah.
If we wanted to somehow secure a couple of units for a startup program.
Which places are those, Susan?
That's one on Harris, on James B. Jones.
Oh, okay.
That's Crossroads of the Chesapeake. That's Lee Self's property that we've been talking about previously.
I got
Is
you.
David
Leland
Jones
Corporation.
building that? No.
Lee builds its own stuff.
He builds his own stuff. Well, he's moving along pretty, it's all under roof now. He's got the roof shingles on it.
How many units are planned there, Susan? Do you know? I know he's gonna build and rent.
He is. There's 120 in total. He's going to build them in chunks. I know the first set, he hadn't told me how many, are going to be rentals, basically, I'm assuming to work cash flow issues, and then the rest will be for sale. But right now, I mean, based on how the property's laid out, there's 2 units there, 2 buildings, that's a total of 12 units. I don't see based on what the farmer is still doing around that property, I don't see another set of buildings going in immediately. But he may want to get these done and completed and then, then go ahead and start building out.
But if we had a program and say we were able to put it together, a
Right.
program and said, we'll take 6, that one whole building.
Yeah, we'll take a whole building from you. That's right.
Yeah.
That may help him. But I
Yeah,
think, I mean,
that
he's
would be a big
for-
catalyst for him to move forward.
Yeah, he's the furthest along. I think the Veenies, I don't know where they are in terms of pulling the trigger on their investment. But that's only 13 units there. It's not a ton. And, I don't know what they would need in order to make that, if 3 units were below market, what would it take for them to go ahead and pull the trigger on construction?
All the units.
Yeah. All right, so Jimmy, you're going to take, Ty, you're going to take that project on, and maybe you can report back to us next meeting? Because this to me is one of the highest priority things that we really have. This housing is just such a huge, huge issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think standing up that CDC as rapidly as possible, because it could be essentially an entity, an umbrella that could manage
Right.
essentially all of this
I
stuff.
think the mission statement's gonna come to the board.
Because then it could have an executive director who could then have a board of directors, and it could basically stand up and be much like the broadband authority, autonomous to a degree from the board of supervisors, and be operating under its own mission and directive plan essentially.
Yeah,
I
but the
think we've already been
CDC,
appointed to the
yeah.
board, to the board, the unformed CDC, those two. Our supervisor.
That's right.
You don't know it yet.
That's right, that's right.
But the thing about it is, it's going to take a while for that
Oh,
whole thing.
definitely.
But the EDA may be an alternative in the short run.
It could be, because we still need to have that, I think, those discussions about how the Economic Development Authority works more efficiently and effectively to carry out its already well-defined objectives. It just lacks the funding to carry out those objectives, so we need to give it the funding. And then some of these other grant possibilities or funding programs could go under the EDA as well.
Yeah.
More sooner than the CDC, because it hasn't been stood up yet, where the Economic Development Authority is up and running, so.
Yeah, and we have an entity that can handle it, is what I'm saying right
And
now.
I'm guessing perhaps Thursday, we can discuss some funding for the EDA as well, too.
Yeah, we can do that, and the EDA meets next Thursday as well. They meet quarterly, and, I mean, Paul took the words out of my mouth. If you wanted the quickest way to do this, I think the EDA is the catalyst for making this pilot program work.
And the
They
EDA
just
could
need
be
the
the
funds.
forecursor to helping set up the CDC, too. They
Sure.
could be the sort of the director of that initial.
Safe to assume the county's behind this.
Yeah,
I mean, full force.
Yeah. So that's the,
Paul, I apologize. I'm going to have to leave at 11:30.
Yeah.
I apologize.
all right, we'll wrap it up right here. The last one was economic development, which is mine, and I had the strategies up there to create a business-friendly environment. We were talking about that, the EDA was going to come into play. I actually had started a slide here that I can show real quick. under the first objective of creating a business-friendly environment to attract new and growing businesses. This example, hire an economic development director, I think that's a key component. You can see I have a timetable like August 1st to do that. I don't know where we stand on that right now. But we do need to develop an online catalog of community resources, develop contacts with state and federal authorities, determine what incentives could be offered. We need to be meeting with existing business, determine what their ongoing needs are and their development needs. Like I know one small business in town is thinking about opening up their own window building plant. But they're searching around for how do we get the capital to do that, and that's all one of the members of my subcommittee. And then this plan for working with the school system and RCC to develop workforce based on business input, and that's a broader subject than what I was talking about earlier, Jess, with just the trades, because the school system and RCC can play a really big hand in workforce development, the whole gamut outside of the trades too.
Absolutely.
And then, it'll go into, it's 11:30, I know we got a 90-minute rule, but the EDA plays a big part in that. What we were just talking about, the interplay between economic development and housing is really, really, really strong, and one is really dependent on the other. And we do have urgent needs for jobs right now, but no housing. So, we have the job openings, we don't have housing for it. So it seems to me like this housing issue is got to come to the forefront, and we've got to figure out some incentive program to get that moving really, really quick.
Paul, is this the template that you want for the goals and the?
Yeah, it's sort of outlined right there. We have the different objectives. Jason's done a good job articulating objectives, and we just now to start to filling in how we're going to meet those objectives, and we meet those objectives through goals that are measurable and tangible.
If everybody followed that same template, it would keep it uniform. Is that?
Exactly, that's the whole idea. Okay, do we have any other input for today?
Paul, I just have one thing to offer up. We can kind of noodle on it between now and later.
Yeah.
Chad Thomas, who was our Kilmarnock's first economic development director, left us and went down to North Carolina to right outside of Charlotte. And he was back in over the weekend. And I asked him if he would be kind enough, if we were interested in he's in a much bigger marketplace, but I thought it would be helpful for him to share some insights on what they're seeing. He's in Iredell County, which is a suburb outside of Charlotte, both rural and suburban, and they're in a big growth boom. But we have some of the same problems, although on a much smaller scale. And so I wanted to run past you guys if you thought it'd be helpful for him to give us an hour of his time, both to just talk about trends he's seeing in a larger market, and maybe answer some questions about how they got from smaller to larger. If we are interested in that, I'll ask him if he could make some time available to us.
Yeah, we can Zoom him in so he doesn't even have to leave.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, well, you want
Because
to...
housing is a huge issue for them. They've already addressed the schools issue. He had interesting things to say about workforce development and how they are using their economic development authority, which is what he's part of, to solve that. So I thought there were some things, even if we didn't use them now, that they might be aspirational for us.
Yeah,
Maybe our next
so,
meeting?
yeah, why don't we see if we can get him to talk to us next meeting,
Okay, all right.
which will be
It'll be May 10th.
May 10th.
Yeah, I will not be here that day. My son will be graduating from Virginia Tech, and I'll be there.
Awesome. That's where you need to be.
He's supposed to be this big.
Masters.
That's awesome.
All right. But, yeah, May 10th, would that be good?
Yeah, I'll ask him now. He's a guy that has 40, he says it's slowed down. He has 43 projects on his desk.
Sounds like Jimmy Carter.
Exactly.
Sounds like Calmatic was a better job.
Okay, so yeah, why don't you go ahead and ask him and just
I will.
let me know. And
I will,
if
sure
not,
thing.
we'll be meeting again May 10th with or without Don. We're in a pivotal area in this plan development, and we just need to stay focused and continue to work on these goals that are measurable and tangible. We made a lot of progress today, I think, on trying to rethink our housing some immediate fixes for our housing strategy. And I'm hoping that we can bring something to, at the next couple of meetings, that we can bring before the supervisors and the town if appropriate. All right, any other items? If not, we'll stand adjourned. And if anyone would like tickets to the Diamonds and Denim Gala, please let me know. Thank you.
I wish I could go.